All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Mr. Donahue. Clearly, I'm wearing a hat today. I'm wearing my old Holy Cross hat that I run, that I jog in when weather permits. Mostly because I'm lazy. I really didn't feel like having to comb my hair. Right now, I have Boris Johnson head, so I'm not bothering. It's been a long Sunday, and I'm trying to get this stuff done for you and done properly. So it's the snow day is coming, the snow day. I'd be recording this anyway for the home, for the individual space. So for a lot of you, this is going to be review, which is fine because we're moving into British Lit, and the first part of British Lit that we're talking about, that we're going to read and write about, is poetry. You haven't really written about poetry, specifically about poetry. You haven't written essays about poetry. The Regents exam doesn't require you to write rather, essays about poetry, but in college classroom, you'll be expected to write essays about poetry. So we're going to review some terms that I think you should know, right? A lot of you will see a lot of these things uh, that I went over in freshman year. I'm going over just the basics. Sorry, there's probably just some crunchy sounds there. I'm moving my microphone. Right? So we look at the devices, right? Here we'll look at devices are tools that poets use to craft their art. They're mainly sound devices. Poetry is always meant to be read aloud. When I read books to my 2-year-old, they're all in a certain rhyme scheme so that mostly so we can memorize the poems. That's not always true of free verse and things like that. But when you read them out loud and you're paying attention to these devices, what you'll find is some of these devices draw your attention to lines, and those lines have ideas. And those ideas are what the poet wants you to hear when you're reading this, or in proper English, college English level writing, you are the listener, always the listener, never the reader, never the writer of the poem is the speaker. We'll go over all this. And the effect is on the listener, always on the listener, not on the reader. So you can look at this, right? First two I want to look at are alliteration and assonance. Alliteration is a stylistic device in which a number of words having the first same consonant sound occur close together. We're going to write about a long poem later on in the semester, um, in a couple of weeks probably. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. It's a story about a mariner, a sailor who gets trapped in a ship that is stuck at sea. So there, you know what you need to know, and this is one of the more famous examples of alliteration. The fair breeze blew, the white foam flew, the furrowed followed free. We were the first that ever burst into that silent sea. You hear that fricative. It's called a fricative. The tooth to lip. Picture in your mind the sound of a ship cutting through the ocean. I went close to the microphone there for effect. And that's what the poet there is trying to recreate, that sound in the listener's head. The other one, assonance. Assonance takes place when two or more words close to one another repeat the same vowel sound, but start with different consonant sounds. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at the close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. That long A vowel sound. It's when you read this full poem, this full-on Dylan Thomas poem, it's nearly impossible not to yell these lines. You should rave, you should rage. Old age, a day. Dylan Thomas is writing this poem, and we'll look at this one more closely later on too, um, as his father lay dying, and he's trying to inspire his father to live, rage against the dying of the light. So that's assonance. Assonance is kind of to bring out it adds a volume to to a poem when you're reading it, and it's when you if you read a poem and you're reading it out loud to yourself, it's almost impossible not to read those lines loudly. Consonance refers to repetitive sounds. This is my reading definitions voice, just so you know. Consonance refers to the repetitive sounds produced by consonants within the sentence or phrase. This repetition often takes place in quick succession, such as in pitter patter. Again, it's a sound device, right? Poems are supposed to be read out loud. I'm supposed to hear these things. So here, great or good, or kind or fair, I will ne'er be more despair. If she love me, this believe, I will die ere she shall grieve. This quick succession. And the placement of these consonant sounds create a sound and also create a flow of the poem. When you listen to the podcast that I had you listen to, the guy who wrote the book where he translates pop songs into into Shakespearean sonnets. Pop writers do this all the time. They use consonants all the time. Rap writers use this all the time. You know, think about any rap writers who speak, right? Because rapping is speaking slash singing, that where they kind of speak the sound of a gun. Not all of them do, I know. But think about the songs that have that, where these kind of really intense urban rap artists are recreating that sound. That's consonants. They're using consonants to do that. Repetition is a literary device that repeats the same word or phrases a few times to make an ideal clearer. There are several types of repetitions, commonly used in both prose and poetry. Yeah. This is the one that you're going to recognize first because they repeat the lines. Pop songs do that too. Because I do not hope to turn again, because I do not hope, because I do not hope to turn. There's no hope. If that's not clear, the poet repeats it for you. And the last one is, onomatopoeia, the word that I find nearly impossible to type. Onomatopoeia. I went too far. Hold on. Onomatopoeia is defined as a word which imitates the natural sound of a thing. It creates a sound effect that mimics the thing described, making the description more expressive and interesting. Boom! That was the Taylor Swift sang at the inauguration, the fireworks song. Boom, boom, boom. This is why I'm an English teacher, right? When she's talking about fireworks, it's like the 4th of July and so forth. And she says over and over, boom, onomatopoeia. Hark, hark, bow, wow. Watch dogs bark, bow, wow. Hark, hark, I hear the strain of strutting chanticleer. Cry, cock-a-diddle-doo. animal sounds. It's from a children's poem. Okay, you're in the individual space. You're going to read this poem on your own. The Charge of Light Brigade, famous poem written by Tennyson, um, based on a real battle. You can look it up. Okay, I'm not asking you to write about it just yet. But in this poem, he uses all of these. Right? This is going to be. I know this is kind of like throwback work for a lot of you. Uh, here's a here's a table. Read the poem. Finish the table. First week is going to be a lot of simple stuff like this. A lot of review because I got to make sure that you know you're on top of this and that you understand this so that you can use these to explore your ideas fully in your essays. You're going to write two essays on poetry. You're going to be going over how to write about a poem. One short poem, one long poem. So if you're working in the individual space, you're going to read this poem about the Noble 600. You're going to look for an example from the poem. That means copy and paste. That's fine. But then the effect on the listener. The listener is you. Read it. Read it more than once. Read it out loud. You sing songs. If you hum songs, they don't have the same effect. But when you sing songs, they have the effect that the writer and the musician and the artist intend. Read these out loud. Poems are meant to be read out loud. Don't be embarrassed. You're home alone. Just read it. Don't worry. We're going to be doing a lot of reading out loud. We're going to be doing a lot of choral reading, and yeah, Boris Johnson head. Just so you know why he wore the hat the whole time. Have fun. Hopefully, the snow doesn't bury us in. Sorry I said that because now I'll have to re-record this if I ever want to do this again next year. If you have any questions, email me or join the meet for Monday, February 1st. Enjoy.